All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program Virtual Information Session. My name is Jeremiah Rivera, and I will be your workshop facilitator today. This session is for realtors interested in helping their clients apply for the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program. If you're an applicant that's looking for updates on your case file, or that you're interested in beginning the application process, you can start that process by calling us at our call center, which is 832-393-0550. And I just put that information into the chat for everyone. So again, this particular webinar is for realtors looking to learn more about this program to assist their clients. And if you are someone applying for that program, for our Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program, please call us at 832-393-0550 to begin your application or to get an update on it. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. We are going to start with a few housekeeping items that will help maximize today's workshop's effectiveness. Number one, please mute your microphone during the presentation. Number two, please feel free to ask questions using the comment box during the presentation. The comment box is the area where I just put in the call center phone number, and you'll find that on the right side of your screen. After our frequently asked questions section near the end of today's presentation, we will have a dedicated question and answer time. And at that point, we will read out questions that were asked and during the presentation and answer them. And related to that is item number three. Please use the raise hand icon during question and answer time, and then we'll call out your name. At that point, you can unmute your microphone to ask your question. You'll find that raise hand icon. It's a little smiley emoji with a hand near the top right of your screen. And with all that said, let's go ahead and get started. So this workshop has two main sections and will take about an hour. First, we'll use these PowerPoint slides to introduce the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program. And number two, then the second half of this presentation will show you the program website, how to navigate it, and how to find and use important resources to help your clients complete their application. And finally, as a reminder, we'll have time for Q&As after the end of that website demonstration. So with that said, let me just navigate screens. Give me just 1 second. Okay, there we go. So just to do a quick technology check, just want to make sure that we're all looking at the same slide. If there's any issues of lag or anything like that, please let me know in the chat box. But right now, we should be looking at the training overview slide, which is going to be essentially our agenda for today. First, we'll go over the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program, or HbAP, abbreviation introduction. Then we'll talk about eligibility requirements, the initial first steps for your clients, important required documents. We'll talk about the program process flow, so that way you have an understanding of where your clients may be in the program. And then we'll go into program FAQs. And then after those FAQs, we'll jump right into the website navigation. So just to make sure you're all here for the right program, we'll talk about the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program, which is designed to offer up to $30,000 in down payment assistance to low and moderate income home buyers. These are either first-time home buyers or residents that are replacing homes that were lost during Hurricane Harvey. So we have a few slides on eligibility, 2 slides on eligibility. So the first is what we're looking at here. Just want to do, again, a technology check to make sure the slides are working correctly for everyone. So number one, your client must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. Number two, they must have never owned a home or have not owned a home within the last 3 years, or must be able to show full disposal of their primary residence that was damaged by Hurricane Harvey. Number three, they must meet income and household size restrictions, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail soon. Number four, they must be eligible to qualify for an eligible mortgage, a fixed rate mortgage of 30 years. It can no ARM or self-finance mortgages. Number five, they must obtain a first-time homebuyer education certificate regardless of first-time status. And this is required for both the applicant and co-applicant. And we'll have a handy link for y'all where You can direct your clients to find the homebuyer education class that's closest to them, and just when we do the website navigation. And now we're on the second slide of eligibility requirements. So we're at number 6. Your client must contribute $350 towards the transaction. Number 7, the home that will be purchased must be an eligible property that can pass environmental review, property inspection, and pays taxes to the city of Houston. We'll talk about this in a little more detail in a few slides. And number 8, the client must agree to a 5-year secondary lien. Number 9, they must not be a registered sex offender. Number 10, they must have resided in incorporated and or city, another way of saying that is city limits of Houston at the time of Hurricane Harvey, which was August 25th, 2017. And number 11, all household members 18 years of age or older must be current on child support payments. So looking at a little deeper dive into income eligibility, one of the differentiating features of this program compared to all of our programs here at the City of Houston is that potential applicants can earn 20% area median income. This is the only program we have in the City of Houston that goes up to 120. All the others that we offer go up to only 80%. So for a household of 4, if you think of the traditional nuclear family for the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program, that household can make up to $95,050 and still be eligible. For our other programs, you can see a significant difference. That same family can only make $63,350. So this calculation is determined by HUD and is updated yearly. What we're looking at are the 2021 numbers. Typically, HUD updates this in March or April, and really depends on what's going on with HUD at that time. So just keep in mind that these household income limits are subject to change, and will likely be changing in the next 2 or 3 months. And as soon as we get those numbers, we'll reflect that here. So please keep that in mind as we're midpoint into January, and so if you have clients in April and May, these numbers are likely to go up just a little bit. So the initial steps for your client to prepare for this program, we've covered a few of these already, but just for program process flow, for everyone to be on the same page, these are the recommended steps. First 3 bubble points are recommended steps, and then once your client has gone through that is when they can begin the process of applying for this program. So the first bubble, find a realtor. That's actually not required, but we highly recommend that for anyone going through this program. First-time home ownership is a complicated process, as you all know, so we always recommend to applicants to find a realtor that can help them navigate this process of purchasing a home. Bubble 2 and 3 are program requirements, not only for Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program, but for all city down payment assistance programs. The client must have taken a HUD-approved 8-hour homebuyer education course within the last 365 days, and he must have qualified for a pre-approval letter for a fixed-rate mortgage. Those are absolute requirements before beginning this program, just to state again. But once the applicant has once your client and or applicant has done those 2 steps, they can then begin the process of going through the application by calling our call center, which I put in the chat, to complete an intake survey and receive what is called a HbAP number. This is essentially a 5-digit number. It's literally HbAP dash and then 5 digits that's assigned to their application, and it allows the call center and our eligibility team to easily pull up their application. And once they receive that HbAP number, that is where that will allow them to submit all required documents either through our application portal, which I'll show you how to access later, or via email, drop off, or mail in, depending on the client or applicant preference. So this, what we're looking at here is a screenshot of our website, which again we'll go through later. But we really want to draw your attention to this, especially as you all are realtors that will be helping hopefully multiple clients go through this program. We've created an applicant document checklist, which is really handy to have on hand. And it's a step-by-step checklist of all the required documents, as well as we're looking at here on this screen. Not only does it have the required documents, so you can literally check that off with your client, it also has specific details about what each of those documents are. So it helps really spell that out. So for example, the text is a little bit small here, but we have under required documents, birth certificate, legal guardianship, or adoption documentation before bubble. And so you get a little more detail on what that is and who is required for it on the right. So in this case, those documents are for all minor household members ages 17 and younger. So I'll show you where this is on the website again, but we recommend as you are helping your client go through this program, print this out with them, print this out and walk them through with them. So that way the quicker we get all these documents, the quicker we can process the application. I do want to caution that occasionally we do update this. So I do recommend coming out to the website every so often to make sure you have the most up-to-date applicant document checklist. And we're going to talk about required documents a little bit in more detail here. So some of the key documents, again, all this will be on that checklist. Just going through these bullet points together. A valid government issued ID or driver's license, proof of legal status for everyone under all loan applicants, I should say. That birth certificate, legal guardianship, or adoption documentation we just talked about, and then proof of residency during Hurricane Harvey. And that could be, again, this will be detailed out in the document checklist, but that could include utility bills or a lease with the name of the applicant and showing that they were there during the time of Hurricane Harvey. So this is a second slide on key documents, documentation of home ownership, proof of property disposal, and duplication of benefit acknowledgement. This is only if it's applicable to your client. And again, that document checklist will also list if which are requirements, what's required and what's if the case by case / if applicable. Most recent 3 months of pay stubs, pension statements, and just a little more detail on this because this does trip up folks. If you get paid weekly, or if your client gets paid weekly, I should say, that would mean that they would need likely 12 weeks worth of pay stubs. Again, it's the last 3 months from the time that they're applying. So they would need to submit all of that for if they work weekly, bi-weekly, it needs to go 3 months back. Most recent award letter for all benefits is also a required document. And again, all other documents listed on the applicant document checklist. So this is an important slide for folks that are helping applicants go through this process. And this is essentially the program process flow. We also list this out on our website. It's essentially the 3 phases on our website, which we'll go over again in a few minutes. Phase 1 is intake eligibility, phase 2 is underwriting, and phase 3 is closing. In terms of the work of helping your client get through this process, really phase 1 is the part where the client is doing most of the work and that you can directly help them move through that quicker. So again, the first bubble on the top left, the applicant has received their home buyer education certificate. They've gotten that lender pre-approval that we talked about. Then they would call the call center, and the call center will do the intake survey to make sure they're ready to apply. And once that has been taken care of, our intake team, which are eligibility team, will contact your client, collect the important documentation that they need to do income and other eligibility checks, and then issue either a pre-approval or a denial letter. So that file will be entered into what is called a Tiger system for the General Land Office, or GLO, for review and approval. So this is an important point to take a pause to let you all talk a little more, so we can explain this a little more detail for y'all that have joined us today. So this program is administered in partnership with the State of Texas General Land Office. So we do our own application process. We have a quality control process, and from there, a file is sent for final approval to the state for State General Land Office, or GLO, for their final approval. So because of that, we do recommend that if your client is looking to purchase a home, they do not put a home under contract until they've gotten the approval letter from the State of Texas's General Land Office. We don't we essentially operate on a first come first serve in terms of looking at applications. So we want to make sure that your client does not put a home under contract and they're in a state where we haven't had a chance to look at their application, or the state hasn't had a chance to look at the application. So we just recommend that if your client is beginning that home ownership process, that they have received that approval letter from the state before they put a home under contract. And I just can't emphasize that enough. We do not want your client to lose earnest money or be put in a situation where they're crossing their fingers that we're able to process applications quick enough or fast enough to help them finish purchasing the home. So again, just please wait until if your client needs the $30,000 to purchase that home, please wait until they've gotten that final approval letter from the state GLO. Okay, so but once they've gotten that letter, they will, that's when we recommend they're able to put a home under contract. And that's when we go to phase 2, which is this underwriting column here. So looking at the next bubble on the pathway here, the property and lender checklist documents are collected and the files sent to our environmental and inspection teams. We'll talk about that a little more in the FAQs, but at this point, a client is looking to put a home under contract. That information is sent to us, and we make sure that home is not in the 100-year floodplain or floodway, and we make sure that the home is passed HQS inspection, and this is all on the back end for your client from here on at this point. So once they've received that approval letter, all this will be on the back end, and the client will not have to do any further application work. So just keep that in mind as well. Once the property has gone through those 2 inspection phases, the file will go into underwriting, and at that point, a commitment or denial letter is issued. And if a commitment letter is issued, they move on to the closing, which is phase 3. Pre-closing documents are collected. From there, the closing instructions are sent to all parties involved, and the funds are wired directly on the day of closing. And then post-closing documents are collected and sent to the loan servicing division. And so this slide is replicated, is a high-level summary of what is on our website. So I'll show you that when we get to it. But this is the general pathway from day 1 to the day of moving into that new home will go under, that the client will see in terms of having to send in documents, and then how that file goes through our system. And again, we'll just talk about that in a little more detail. At phase 1, again, the applicant has followed those initial steps we've talked about. That we've at HCD have reviewed their documents. If that is a thumbs up, we send that to the state GLO for approval. And then from there, if the state, we have a good partnership with the state here, so we've really streamlined our processes to make sure any application to the state is pretty pristine. So most of the time, this will go through within 2 weeks, once sent to the state. And from there, pre-approval, if when the state has done that, will be confirmed with a conditional reservation letter. So depending on workloads, holidays, etc., you can expect this process to last up to 6 weeks. This is the part where you can really help your client. The quicker we can get all the documentation that we need, the quicker we can process that file, and the quicker we can send it out to the state for their review. So we recommend communicating to your client 6 weeks, but you can help shorten that time frame by working with them to make sure all their documents are sent in as soon as possible, and then we will work to get that to the state as quickly as possible for their review. So we'll talk a little more about income certification. This calculation will consider all household members, even if they are not on the loan. And as an FYI, disability for children is counted, and full-time non-borrower adult student income is capped at $480 for the year, and self-employed income is verified through the most recent year's tax return. And for a little more detail, again, we're still on income certification. Again, the most recent 12 weeks of paycheck stubs. So if they work weekly, we need those 12. If they get paid weekly, we need the 12 weeks worth. We'll need 12 paycheck stubs. And biweekly, it's less. So again, just communicate that with your client. Social Security, annuities, insurance policies, etc., need to be submitted as well as unemployment, disability compensation, workers' compensation, and severance pay, and also, if applicable, child support payments and regular contributions or gifts. So a little more detail about phase 2. Again, at this point, the application has gone through the city and has gone through the state. Your client has received that letter saying that the state has given the approval, and now they've shopped and they found a home that they want to move into, and that home is now under contract, and that's when phase 2 really begins. A property and lender checklist is submitted. And so I'll show you what that looks like, that checklist on the website. A little more detail again about the environmental inspection. The flood insurance is required for properties in the 100-year floodplain. And so we verify if it's in the 100-year floodplain, or if it's in a floodway. If it's in a floodway, the client will need to shop for a different home if they want to use the $30,000 under the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program. It could also not be an airport, runway zone, coastal barrier. Once it passes the environmental inspection, a property inspection is ordered, and then the loan goes under underwriting after both inspections pass. From there, the commitment letter is issued. So all documents on the property lender's checklist will be uploaded directly via the application portal using that HbAP number that we mentioned earlier, that HbAP 5-digit number. You must have that HbAP project number on all documents to make sure that it matches the client's application. And I recommend, again, contact us immediately once that buyer is under contract so we can move this process as quickly as possible on behalf of the client. Further detail on the property and lender's checklist, that property data sheet is required to schedule these inspections. The loan disclosure form must be completed to determine the amount of assistance about Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Funds. And then a notice to sellers must be fully completed and signed by both parties. And a HbAP lead-based paint form or TREC addendum. Again, I'll show you where this property and lender checklist is on the website when we go through that. And now we're moving on to underwriting criteria. Student loans will be fully counted unless they're in deferment or forbearance. Car loans with 12 months or less will be excluded from the back-end calculation. No collections for utilities or government entities in the last 2 years, and payment plans are not allowed. All accounts with that $1,000 balance or less will be excluded from the back end, and the back end ratio cannot exceed 45%. And now at this point, the file is in phase 3, and terms and conditions are sent for signature. Closing instructions and loan closing documents are sent to the title and lender. The pre-closing documents are collected, and then the funds are wired on the day of closing. And just keep in mind that the City of Houston does need 3 business days to wire transfers. And at that point, the final recorded and certified post-closing documents are collected, and your client is now has the keys to their home and they're moving in. So that's the part we all want to get to on behalf of your clients as soon as we can, because it is our mission to get as many folks into homes as possible. Some other things to keep in mind: the City of Houston's ADD Financing Controller's Office does close weekly at 2 p.m. And this is another thing you might want to put on your calendar as you will be assisting clients throughout the year. The City of Houston does accept applications again throughout the year, but we cannot wire closing funds from late June to mid-July because of the end of our fiscal year. So again, I would just put that on your calendar to not schedule closing dates during that time of your clients. This is something that is, again, it's just to be explicit, this is something above HCDD. This is City of Houston. So we cannot wire closings during that time. It's not a matter of speaking to managers or anything like that. This is for all departments throughout the city of Houston. So just be really mindful. Once we get to May, late April, early May, of talking this through with your clients that they do need that $30,000 to help close out the home that they're looking to purchase. So we're gonna go through program FAQs. And Martha, I see that you have your hand raised, so you want to just go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, I also wanted to make a note that if we could take consideration also during the holidays, typically a lot of city employees are out during, Thanksgiving and Christmas in the beginning of the year, which can slow down the process.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, and that's a great point. I would also keep that in mind, but for sure, definitely put down that mark. Put down that on if you use Outlook or Google Calendars, whatever your calendar system is, I would definitely put that. Again, I'll just put that back out there. The mid-July, late June, mid-July, end of fiscal year, where we're essentially closing the books. That's really what that is. So again, just keep that in mind. We're gonna go through program FAQs, do a quick run through of the website, and then we will take any outstanding questions from the audience. So just to let you all know, don't feel like you have to write all this stuff down. This is on the website itself, and I'll show you where it's on the website. But these are some of the questions we get enough that they've made it to FAQ status. So the first question is, does the program follow SJHA guidelines? And the answer to that is no. The Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program sets and follows its own internal guidelines. And our underwriting includes calculating debt to income ratio, making sure there are no outstanding collections for government services for utilities, and verifying there are no defaulted student loans. Again, keep in mind that debt to income ratio cannot exceed 45% based on our program income calculation and underwriting criteria. And this is not a requirement for under. So a little more detail, again, about the environmental review. That is going to look at where the home is located relative to floodway and floodplains. Homes that are located in flood zones are required to have flood insurance to complete the purchase. And floodway homes and floodways are not permissible under this program. Another question we get a lot is specifically about fees to participate. And yes, the buyer must contribute a minimum of $350 to the payment of the home, but there are no additional fees that we pay to the city of Houston itself. The question we get a lot as well is there a credit score requirement? The answer to that across the board for all of our down payment assistance programs said no, we do not look at credit score. Of course, credit score is your client's ability to be able to get a fixed rate mortgage, and that fixed rate mortgage is a requirement, but we will never ask your client for a credit score. It's not something we'll ask about. So just keep that in mind. Are the restrictions the price or location? Yes, the homes must be pay taxes to the city. But we do not have a cap, so the buyer can select any home that fits their needs and also in the budget. Can the buyer receive cash back? The answer to that is no. Buyers cannot receive cash back in the excess of out-of-pocket costs. And related to that, can our HbAP funds be used for realtor commissions? The answer to that is no. Funds are strictly for down payment, closing costs, prepaid, principal reduction. If the buyer does choose to pay a realtor commission, they will need to do so from their own personal funds. So this is an important slide, especially that first link. This is application. That is recovery.houston.gov/HbAP. And I just put that in the chat for everyone. That phone number again, 832-393-0550 call center. That is where your client will call to begin the process of applying or receive application updates. So if they want to know where the application is, what forms are missing, it is the same number in either case. We also have emails. These are also on the website, but if your client chooses to use the email to send their documents in rather than our online portal, they can do that using homebuyer application at hctx.gov. For lenders to contact us, that is going to be homebuyers lender HoustonTX.gov. Title companies can email us at homebuyerclosings at HoustonTX.gov. And again, our website, which we're about to go into in just a second, is recovery.HoustonTX.gov. And that actually brings us to the end of our PowerPoint section of the webinar. I'm going to pull up the website, and then after going through that briefly, we will take your questions and answer them. I'm going to give it a second. I think it's showing now. Okay, so you can see the website here, recovery.HoustonTX/HbAP, and you will know you're on the right page because you'll see the green and bold coloring and the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program. So this website very closely mirrors the webinar that we just went through, and I'm just going to go through it very briefly and show you the most important links. So here are kind of the applicant qualifications. So we went through all this already. The U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident. We have a map here where folks can check their address on April 25th, 2017 to see if they're eligible. And a link to 120% area median income, which we'll update when that's updated by HUD later this year. Let me just show you that map real quick as it loads. Anywhere within this yellow area is considered the city of Houston jurisdiction. So when you put in your address, and then our address here at the city of Houston, HCDD, it's going to take a second, but it should go back to yellow highlight. Okay, it looks like maybe this map got updated to do something differently. Okay, so you can see it's a little bit. Okay, so I'll have to check with our GIS team on this map. Normally that address will show up in yellow, this dot here. Okay, there it goes. I jinxed it by being impatient. Apologies, everyone. But here you can see that this yellow shading versus right here where Rush University places and Bel Air, which are not considered City of Houston jurisdiction. So if this dot had been right here or here, or let me scroll back up to past Humble. There we go. And spots here, or Hunters Creek Village, then it would not be within the City of Houston jurisdiction. At that point, we do have a if that is the only qualification that your client does not meet, we do have a separate program that we can check for that is still for $30,000 down payment assistance. So if that's the only kind of red flag, we recommend that you go ahead and keep applying for the program. And on the back end, we will check to see if your client is eligible for that other program that we're mentioning. So they would not be eligible for the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program, but they may still be eligible for $30,000. Just let our eligibility submit the documents as the same exact documents, and our eligibility team will do that back-end check for you to see if they apply, if the client is okay to go with the other program. So that's, again, the initial qualifications. Here you'll see those first steps again that we talked about, the finding the realtor, taking the 8-hour HUD homebuyer education course. And we have a link to HUD's website, which is loading here. Sometimes it goes in a second. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Still loading, so I'll go to the website. Oh, there it goes. Again, teaching me an important lesson about having patience. But that link is set up to show you all of the local agencies that offer the HUD homebuyer education course. And if you can see here, this is the HUD webpage. So this is this is an official page. We don't maintain this, but these are the agencies that HUD recognizes as offering that course. And as I'm scrolling down here, you can see there's agencies all throughout the city of Houston that offer the course. At the very bottom of the page, you can play around with the search criteria. So right now you can see we have it set up that it automatically shows Houston. But you could do a specific zip code if you want something closer to your client. You could search for languages if they're a Spanish speaker. For example, you can see that the Hano Center offers the course in Spanish, and you can see that Fifth Ward offers it in Spanish and Vietnamese. And finally, the Chinese Community Center offers the Cantonese, Chinese Mandarin, and English. So there's whatever need your client has, you can look through through the HUD page to see what works best for them. And again, one of the important documents here is that applicant document checklist. It's under phase 1 of the homebuyer application. So again, recommend printing this out and going through this as a checklist for your with your client. And so it's a one-pager here. We kept it as simple as possible. And I don't think there's much more to add other than, again, the specific details for each required document. And the required documents that you need to fill out or your client needs to fill out are all right here, including your application intake form. So that's all there grouped together. And now I want to show you our application portal. This is the preferred method for your client to submit their documents. And it's preferred because as soon as a document is submitted, it is automatically attached to the client profile document, application document. They have the option using email or sending via mail or in person. That does delay the process just because it does take time for the mail to go through, of course. And via email, we do have eligibility specialists that check that mailbox, but then it takes staff time, of course, to sort through the emails, find all the documents, and attach them to the applicant application. Whereas the online portal does that automatically. And again, this is what that profile looks like. I'm sorry, the application profile portal looks like. And we know that it automatically matches to an application because you will need the HbAP number and you will need the exact spelling of the name. So for example, you will see we have this dummy account for this demonstration. There's a HbAP number and a name, Jasmine and Test. If any one letter is off, you will see that you'll get this message, first and last name do not match, and you won't be able to submit documents. So that's how we know documents submitted automatically go to the correct profile. And so if I delete that extra one, that error message goes away. Scrolling down here, you'll see we've grouped together the required documents. These are the documents every application will need to upload. All you have to do that is click on the bubble. So for example, I will just click on paycheck stub, and it's just like any other. You'll see this a box pop up like this, and I'll just put up a file to just show you what it looks like. You can see you get a pending message and the name of the file. The section here is as required. So for example, a divorce decree. If your client has not been divorced, if it's a single individual, for example, they would not need to submit this document. So this is as required. Again, all these forms up here under required are required for every application. and these will be the as required section are as required. Down below the lender's document, this is for phase 2 and 3. Your client will not have to upload anything here. But I wanted to show you what it looks like when you successfully submit documents. So I set it up right here to put in a paycheck stub. When you hit submit, you'll get this message, the form is being saved. And you will know, you and or the client will know it has been successfully sent when you are sent to this web page, the home buyer assistance page. You or the client can use the application portal as many times as you want per day. So for example, if you're submitting everything for household of 4, you may have to go use the application portal once. If we're reaching out to you because we need a form updated, you could just go and upload that one form. It just really depends on where your client is in the application process. And again, it's the same call center number for beginning the application and for checking the status. And then here's the phase 2 and phase 3 documents that we talked about in a little more detail. The full list, the phase 2 list is here. And it'll be a very similar checklist to what we saw for phase 1. And all the FAQs that we went through are here as well as some additional ones for applicants. For example, one of the questions we get a lot is wanting more detail about the 5-year secondary lien, which we didn't cover together. We covered these here on the right. But again, the presentation we went through very closely mirrors the process that we're looking at here on the website, and that was intentional. So other than that, that's pretty much everything on the website that I wanted to show everyone. So I'm going to go and pause. You've been hearing me talk to you all for 45 minutes, so I'm going to take a breath. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. Can I get a copy of these slides? Yes, we can send you the slides. The one caveat on that is, again, I just want to remind everyone, the same thing I mentioned for the applicant checklist. Every so often we do update the slides and we do update the website. That's based on feedback we get from applicants, from stakeholders like you all, realtors, and from our partner at the GLO. So we do make occasional changes. So we can send the slides, but I do just recommend coming out to the website every so often to make sure nothing substantial has changed. Because we do update the website occasionally, but yeah, we can definitely send you those slides, Danielle. And with that, that's the only question in the chat. So now I'm going to pause and wait to see if anyone has additional questions that you can either put into the chat or use the raise hand icon, and we'll call on your name. Okay, that's a great question, Rashonda. So Rashonda in the chat asked, what is the other program called if this property is not listed in the city of Houston? Well, all of our down payment assistance programs in the property that the applicant is looking to purchase must be within the city of Houston. But if for example, for the Harvey Home Buyers Assistance Program, your client must have lived in the city of Houston on the day of Hurricane Harvey. For someone like myself who moved to Houston after Hurricane Harvey, obviously that wouldn't apply to me. But they would. There's another program called the Home Buyer Assistance Program, where as long as you're a resident in the city of Houston after Hurricane Harvey hit, you can still apply for $30,000 in down payment assistance. And the name of that program again is the Home Buyer Assistance Program. So it's essentially Home Buyer Assistance Program, but it does not have the Harvey name attached to it. Does the client, okay, and Rashawn, let me know in the chat if that helped answer your question. Danielle is asking in the chat, does the client get an official notice of their approval? My client did get notified until 30 days after acceptance and lost time to look for a home. That is the commitment, I think, is what you're looking for. And there's an example of one right here. And Martha Michelle, did you want to?
Yeah. So for the HbAP program, all of the files have to be submitted to the GLO, to the state for approval. The state has 15 days to either issue what is called a request for additional information or an approval. Sometimes when they request additional information, the city must either rectify something on our side or collect additional documents from the client and then submit it back to the state then has an additional 14 days to provide a response, and which can cause delays. And this is why we ask clients not to put escrow money down until they actually receive an official approval letter from the program.
Okay, the next question, Rashonda, is in the chat. Is from Rashonda in the chat. I've sold several homes with the city's down payment assistance. How can I be added as a realtor on your realtor list on your website? We can add the attendees on this program, on this webinar to that list. So we will do that. It's updated once a month. So it probably won't be for another week or so, but we will add everyone on this list to that spreadsheet. Question from Danielle is, what's the maximum amount of savings a client can have in their account?
Currently at this time, liquid assets are capped at $15,000 for the HbAP and HAP program. For the other programs, we're currently in the process of updating those guidelines to limit the liquid assets for HCP and new home development.
And while people are asking or thinking about questions, we had it up earlier. So Mark, we've referenced other programs here at the city for a few times. So we want to make sure we're keeping the focus on Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program, but as y'all realtors is relevant to you, we do have a Homebuyer Hub page where we do update the down payment assistance programs that we have here at the city, including Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program. So we're not going to answer specific questions about the other programs, but if you want to do some research on what we are currently offering, and again, we'll update this as new programs come up or programs sunset, we have the Homebuyers Hub page, which does list all of our down payment assistance programs here. Again, including the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program and the traditional Homebuyer Assistance Program. And that is at houstontx.gov/housing/homes. And you'll see the Homebuyer Hub language here. So, but I do want to get back and keep the main focus to our Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program. Looks like we have another question in the chat. Rashonda asks, regarding cashback at closing, would the appraisal fee be considered for a cashback to the client?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Regarding cashback at closing, would the appraisal fee be considered for the cashback to the client?
The appraisal fee, how is the appraisal fee being paid? Is it being paid by the seller, or is that being paid with the down payment assistance from the city? If it's being paid by the it's being paid by the client of the seller. If it's being paid by the seller, then no, it should not be an issue.
And Rashonda, the maximum amount of liquid assets was 15,000. All right. Are there any other questions from? Again, you can either type in the chat or use the raise hand icon, and we'll call on you to unmute yourself and ask whatever your preference is.
Jeremiah, may I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, regarding the appraisal fee, if it's paid by the client during the process, would that be considered as to be refunded to the client as an out-of-pocket expense if it's paid by the client? If the client pays for the appraisal fee, I only ask because they mentioned out-of-pocket expenses being refunded to the client, because it was regarding the cashback at closing. Can the client receive cashback at closing? So then it was mentioned that if the client can receive funds up to the amount that they pretty much, that was an out-of-pocket expense. So I was wondering if the appraisal fee would be considered if the client paid that appraisal fee out of pocket. Would they be able to get that back at closing? Okay, so because they have to contribute at least $350, so that can be used towards the minimum contribution.
Yeah, so
Okay.
often, a lot of times clients will use a truck inspection for and the cost associated with that towards the 350. But for those of you that aren't looking at the chat, Martha Michelle mentioned the appraisal fee can be used as their minimum contribution, that 350 towards purchasing the home.
Okay. Thank you so much. I hope you feel better, Martha.
And there's a question about required documentation status. So I pulled up the applicant document checklist again and blew it up a little bit because I realized after the fact that it was probably, since we didn't go into a lot of detail, it was probably hard to see it. But this is a great example of using the checklist. So we have here proof of legal status, and then we add a little more detail. U.S. birth certificate or passport, permanent resident, or social security card. So that's the documentation that can be uploaded with the application to show that proof of legal status. And just going through it again, there's through the document checklist, you can see we have a little more detail about who documents might be applicable for and what documents we're accepting to satisfy the requirement. Another question, the feds took back the money allocated for Harvey. The money was not taken out of the Harvey Home Buyer Assistance Program. So we are doing our best to spend all of it down, and it has not been taken back. So there's no need to, we won't go into a full discussion about what you're talking about, Pamela, but that has not impacted the Harvey Home Buyer Assistance Program. Okay, and Martha did add a little bit more into the chat, which I'll read out. The money that was taken back was for what is called the HOPE program, or Homeowners Assistance Program. And that is for, as it's in the title, but it specifically relates to folks that are repairing homes and reimbursements, homes that were damaged during Hurricane Harvey. Whereas this is the Home Buyer Assistance Program. So I can see how the two names are, they get, well, when they're not super similar, but similar enough where I can definitely see the confusion that happens there. So this is strictly for down payment assistance. So again, that does not impact what happened with the HOPE program, does not impact this one. How long does the process take from the point of executed contract? Martha Michelle, how long would you say once a contract has been put in place that it takes to finish up the process? The eligibility process can, we again, just to clarify, we recommend your client have 6 weeks, plan for 6 weeks for our eligibility team and for the state to go through that application, which is different than what Danielle's asking. And Martha Michelle put in the chat for your question, Danielle, that for the inspections, the environmental and HQS inspection, that should take no more than 6 business days. Again, with that, keep in mind, holidays and that sort of thing. So if that is happening at the end of December, that could take a little bit longer because of staff being out. But typically, that should look at about 6 days. Rashana, did you have an additional question, or is the raise hand icon from earlier?
It was actually from earlier, but I did have a question. You mentioned $480. I think that was about the disability of a child or something like that. I didn't quite understand that part.
I think that, well, let me pull up that slide again. Give me just 1 second to scroll back.
Okay.
I know that's covered a lot of information.
Oh yes, that's it. Full-time, non-borrowed. Okay, full-time, non-borrowed, adult student is okay. Okay. And then also the no utilities and collections, was that for the past 2 years or?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, in that case, again, we're at the end of our presentation. I want to thank all of you all for joining us because I know we're all of you are busy and it's during the workday, so we appreciate you taking the time to learn about the Harvey Homebuyer Assistance Program and how you can use it to help your clients purchase their home this year. If there are any questions that come up after the fact, you can always email us at those email addresses we have on our webpage. But again, highly recommend you bookmark the recovery website so that way you have access to the website at your fingertips. But other than that, that brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much, everyone, and please enjoy the rest of your day.